Welcome to Between Drafts. I'm Nathan.
I'm Nat.
We have been dealing false information, apparently.
It's true.
We did not know this. We thought that you could not do pre-orders on Amazon for paperback and hardback as a self-published author. Randomly, Nat has now been able to do that.
Apparently you can.
So
yeah, so this was kind of a funny discovery this week. I've been talking about the pre-order strategy for Husk, and I decided to do the pre-orders on my own site using Shopify, which is not
bundled
super well.
it.
Bundled it, so you got the hardcover, the Kindle, and the audiobook for the price of the hardcover. Been really happy with that. Don't regret that decision. But part of what informed it was being told from a number of people in self-publishing that there wasn't really a good way to do pre-orders for a self-published hardcover and paperback. And there isn't on Amazon. They don't really give you a great way to do that.
It's like when you logged into Amazon to add the ebook, there's no, oh, by the way, just add your paperback here and we'll sell it. There's no way to do that.
You can add a paperback and you can link them, in the KDP interface. So KDP is Kindle Direct Publishing. Yes. And that's where you go to upload your ebook to publish it on Amazon. And you can add a paperback there, or you can link an existing paperback in a hardcover. But there isn't like an obvious way there to do these pre-orders, especially if you're doing a hardcover that's printed through another provider. And so I'm using Ingram because Ingram does a nicer job than the default Kindle or the default Amazon printing for paperbacks. So part of why I wanted to do pre-orders on my site was that it wasn't really clear it was going to work on Amazon. And then we got the files uploaded to Ingram. So I actually placed the first order for my books. Pretty exciting. Did that last week.
So this is an order that you're going to sign for part of the bundle and then ship it out to early readers.
Exactly. Yes. So I went ahead and bought 500 hardcovers, and about half of those are spoken for already. So if you want to pre-order a copy, do it now before they run out. But so those are in transit, which is super exciting. And then Scribe, part of my package, includes 50 paperbacks. And so they sent me those as well.
Very cool.
And I think I'll use those to send to influencers and things like that, or people like that. But we got it all loaded up on Ingram so I could order my books and set the publish date on Ingram for when it should be plugged into Amazon. And then I was just on Amazon the other day looking at the page for the Kindle book of Husk, and the paperback and hardcover were there. There was no notification in Ingram that this was going to happen. And
no notification on Amazon?
No, nobody told me. And the people at Scribe seemed a little surprised too, because maybe this is a new thing, or maybe it happens sometimes and other times it doesn't. And it's like it's only half integrated. The covers aren't there.
Yeah.
The cover isn't there for the hardcover at all. It just says image missing. And only the back cover is there for the paperback.
I noticed that.
It doesn't have the front cover. So,
and I'm assuming you loaded the front cover.
It does have a front cover.
Yeah.
It is loaded. But it sounds like it is going to be listed on Amazon before release date. And you can pre-order it on Amazon right now. It's got the price, and it'll be delivered via Prime on the day it comes out, which is super cool.
Yeah.
So I guess something has changed with the Ingram integration, which is really cool to know.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like it's a perfect integration yet, but
getting there.
And
the folks at Scribe seemed to think that within a couple weeks, the images would be sorted out on Amazon. So they said that they like to get everything uploaded to Ingram at least 4, if not 6 weeks before publication date.
Wow.
Which is about what we did. We did about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
We got it up there the second week of April. It's coming out end of May, so I think 7 weeks. So there'll be plenty of time for it to be sorted out. But honestly, it's really fun. It's like if somebody doesn't want to pre-order through Shopify, they can just do it on Amazon.
Yeah,
now.
If you just want the paperback, just want the hardcover, boom.
Yeah.
And through Prime and all that.
Right, or you don't want to pay the $5 of shipping or whatever to have me fulfill it for you. I mean, you get a signed copy, so I still think you should buy from me. But it's kind of a nice surprise.
So it's through Prime?
Yeah, it has Prime shipping. And that must just be something that Amazon and Ingram have worked out. I don't really know how that part of the process works, to be honest. that's the nice thing about using Ingram, is it just handles all of the printing and shipping logistics, so I don't have to think about it. And I don't really know how payment works either. Maybe Ingram sends me checks and Amazon pays them.
I'm hoping you can tell me
I hope
that.
I get paid somehow.
I'm hoping in 2 months you can tell me that.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of a fun surprise. I mean, I think, when the novella comes out towards the end of this year, I'm going to do the same thing that I did for Husk, where I launch it on my site first and do the pre-orders there. I'll probably do a shorter campaign this time, maybe, or next time, like maybe 4 weeks, because 2 months is like,
it's a lot.
It's a little long. I feel like a month is a good amount of time.
Yeah.
But keep doing the Shopify thing. And, what I hope is that these 500 copies sell out of the hardcover. If they don't, that's okay. I can sell them non-bundled or use them for something else. Sure. But then just with each launch, hopefully sell more and more through my site before it launches on Amazon, and just kind of like see how that grows over time.
Yeah.
I do need to think about, you gave me this idea, and I think it's a good idea, but breaking out my email list so that I have one just for book stuff, because my email list is a mess, right? Just there's so many things people could be signing up for, right? Yeah. It's like, you signed up because you found my book notes. You signed up because you're interested in
coding,
learning how to code with AI. You signed up because you read like a 6-year-old article on doing Kegel exercises, right? Like, there's just a lot of ways you end up on my email list, and I want a way for the people interested in just the book stuff to have that option.
Yeah.
And for the people who just want the articles to not be getting all of the heavy push for book stuff too. So I haven't quite figured that out yet, but maybe I can just segment it in ConvertKit and let people update their subscription preferences and do something like that. But I'd also like to have a dedicated landing page.
Yeah. I also don't know how you do that in ConvertKit and then send everything on Substack, and how those.
I would probably just send it on ConvertKit. I think.
Yeah, but would you send your regular newsletter through ConvertKit?
I don't know. This is the problem.
Yeah. I've thought through all that. I didn't share how I'm doing it.
Yeah. So how are you doing it now?
Okay. So my regular newsletter goes through Beehive currently. Just over 90,000 subscribers. And I'm going to take that list, move it to Substack, because the thinking here is I see these platforms. I'll separate Substack and then Beehive ConvertKit. If you're using MailChimp, please stop. Just use one of Beehive and ConvertKit. They're both,
those days are gone.
They're both good. Just use one of them. And I think, to me, Substack more and more is becoming YouTube for writing. Yeah. And I think that's quite powerful. And you can still export your email list. And if you want to move back to Beehive or Substack, there's nothing stopping you.
Yeah.
So the downside is not huge. And I think their network has huge potential to be very powerful for gaining more and more subscribers. There are people on there who only write newsletters and have grown to massive lists without having to do Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube as well. And that's quite appealing. So moving to Substack for the main newsletter, which is all about storytelling.
Yeah.
Now the book one, I'm going to use Beehive for similar reasons you were talking about ConvertKit, because I can do the segmentations, I can do the automation. The main things I want are segmenting the audience in terms of who's opening a lot, who's clicking a lot, who's actually bought the book, who's whatever. You can do all the segmenting you could ever desire. And then on the flip side, automations, where if somebody, when the novella comes out, then I can say on my author website or whatever, if you download this novella, boom, send it to you through that welcome email automation, and then follow up in a week or two. Hey, what do you think about it? Follow up in another 2 weeks. It'd be pretty awesome if you left a review on Amazon, that kind of thing. So in Substack, you can't do either of the segmenting or the automations. So that's what I'm thinking currently.
Cool.
The nice thing is just, again, being able to move them back and forth. And then the author newsletter, I'll probably just do once a month, let's call it. It won't be a super high lift thing, but I think it's high leverage if you can build out. Because a portion of the original newsletter will be interested in the books, but a portion won't be.
Yeah.
And I think there's a ton of value in building out a list dedicated to the books.
Cool.
So that's how I'm thinking about it.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to figure out the best way to do it too. But once I do, I'll share an update. Speaking of you and book plans, it sounds like you're starting to figure out a bit of a strategy and timeline around how and when you want to launch this thing.
So cover design will happen around June.
Okay.
Didn't give me a specific date, just said June. So broadly, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
June, let's say, done by the end of July at the latest. And I have the developmental edit in process currently.
Cool.
That's due back in like 2 to 4 weeks now. And I imagine that'll take me, let's say, 3 to 4 weeks to get done. So that is sometime end of May and June, something like that.
Yeah.
So if I get the cover and then the book in a really good spot by June, July, copy edits and all that come next. So I'll get those scheduled for right after I'm done with like the book.
Yeah.
And get the copy edits done. That'll take 2 to 4 weeks, probably something like that.
Yeah.
So that puts us mid-fall, September, October. Launch it then.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm trying to be better about planning things out in advance because I'm not doing it through Scribe, and they've been great about handling things like timelines, the copy edits, the cover design, the stuff that can become lawn poles in the tent that I didn't expect.
Yeah.
Right. So looking at kind of mid-early fall.
So it's mid-April right now.
Yes.
You should have the developmental edits back by mid-May.
Yep.
And then you're going to take 2 months, 3 months, 1 month to implement? How long are you thinking?
I mean, it definitely depends on how much stuff there is there. So it's hard to say. I will shoot to be as fast as possible.
Yeah. And then it'll be copy edits, implementing those. And then are you going to hire a layout designer? Maybe. I haven't thought about that. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know not everybody does. I know you can do it without one. I have a friend who's like obsessed with fonts and design, and I might just be lean on them. Hey, Zach. Yeah. What do you think? I think Paul does his own layouts. Does he? I think so. Okay. And I know there are tools that there's one called Vellum, I think. Yeah, Vellum is popular. One that I've seen that Paul liked. I think he said it was like it wasn't as good for writing in, but for doing like that production towards the end, it was quite good. And then, you get it up on Ingram like 4 weeks before. Yeah, I'll probably do a shorter launch. Yeah, I think because I'm going to do it all through Amazon, and I want, I guess, as many book sales per day as possible during like a, let's call it 2 to 3 week period for pre-orders. So that I think would be my goal. I think we might like A/B test launch. Yeah. So you're not going to do the Shopify thing, you don't think? I don't think so. I think I'm just going to do Amazon. Cool. And just see if I can crack the Amazon algorithm and sell things outside of my direct audience. Makes sense. That's the goal, and just get as many out there as possible. I'll probably make the ebook pretty cheap. I haven't decided a specific number, but the goal being just lower the barrier to entry as much as possible. Yeah, just distribution. Exactly, just as many out there as I can. That's going to be my only goal, and I think it's going to be short launch window. Let's call it 3 to 4 weeks. Only through Amazon. Try to tap the algorithm. See what happens. Yeah. Cool. Are you going to hire anyone for like Amazon listing advice, like the blurb and stuff?
That's a great question because it's really important.
Yeah. Because I had somebody to help with that through Scribe.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because so, what I'm thinking about is like all these individual pieces, right?
Yep.
And which ones do you need and not need?
Mm-hmm.
And that was one where I figured I could have done it myself, but having somebody helping on it actually was pretty nice.
I think a lot of these things are probably like that.
I know. Yeah,
You
exactly.
Can do
yeah,
it
you
yourself,
totally can do it yourself.
But have someone who's done it before and done it well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I need to figure that out for the layout. Because your layout looks great.
It looks sick.
I think that's actually a really nice part, especially somebody ordering a hardback or a paperback.
Yeah.
Looks,
having a nice layout goes
it
a long
looks
way.
very, and I think nice might not be the right word. It looks very professional.
Yeah.
It's, the author put time, energy, and resources into making this book look professional.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of my big things with self-publishing is I don't want the book to look self-published.
Yes.
I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that the traditional publishers have the resources to make these things look really nice.
Yeah.
And that first impression is very valuable. So I think your layout, your cover are they're more important. And maybe your chapter 1 are like the 3 things that, first impression.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've said this before, it's like if I'm looking on Amazon and a cover looks cheap, I'm much less likely to buy the book.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And if you open it and the layout's messy or there's weird spacing or whatever, then that's going to lower your opinion of the book too. It kind of doesn't matter how long you spent writing it if the visual level doesn't match.
So with that said, I think I'd be more likely to hire someone after this conversation for that layout piece more than the Amazon listing piece.
That makes sense.
I know how to do copywriting.
And we're probably going to play with the listing description too.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to do as
I'm
much
be
as possible.
Yeah. It's like once sales level off, you can A/B test that.
Can you A/B test?
Well, I mean, you can do a rough A/B test where you set it to one thing for a week and then another thing for a week, and kind of like.
I really wish you could see just number of views, number of buys.
I know.
Just very simple.
If they gave you more details.
Just a very simple conversion rate would be huge.
All you get are sales.
Yeah.
So you have no idea how many people are actually looking at it.
Right.
But cool. That all makes sense. And then what about audiobook? Thought about that?
Yeah, I've thought about it. They're really popular.
They are really popular.
So that's my hesitation with it.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to putting it out at a different time than launch.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about this. I think there's value to having multiple launches.
Totally.
So I'm not opposed to doing it a month or 2 later, let's say. It's also just a much bigger investment than a lot of these other things we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like a good audiobook narrator is going to run you thousands of dollars, whereas I'll be shocked, I could be wrong, if the layout piece is $9,000.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
Yeah.
I feel like you probably get a good layout designer for $1,200, if that.
That's my guess.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure there's ranges to that too. But I mean, it's like I'm going through the audiobook auditions now, and like you can tell the people who charge more for a reason.
And they're good.
They're good.
Yeah.
And I was going into it thinking like, oh, okay, maybe one of the people who is on the lower end will be fine too.
Find an up and comer who's gonna be a stud.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I listened to all of the audition tapes, and I made my initial top 3. And my top 3 were the 3 most expensive ones.
Way.
I was like, of course,
Did you know when you were listening that they were when you ranked them? Like, was it like tape 1, tape 2, tape 3, or was it like tape 1 is Sarah, tape 2 is Billy?
I knew the names, and I knew one of them was one of the more expensive people, but I didn't know for the other 2.
Oh,
it just worked out that way.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And then Cosette listened to them, and she had the same top picks, and my mom listened to them, and she had one of the same top picks.
Yeah.
And I was just like, all right.
Yeah. Is there a big difference between, say, 1 and 3? And not in terms of price, in terms of quality. Like, would you be happy with all three of them?
I'd be happy with my top two.
Nice.
I think.
Yeah.
Honestly, the other main difference is like history of work. So the number 2 is less expensive and is very good, but hasn't really done much sci-fi fantasy. He's done like a decent amount of romantasy or smut type books.
Yeah.
Which I have nothing wrong with that.
It's just different.
It's just different. And if you look at, I don't know how many people do this, but if you look at who somebody's done on Audible, that could affect the buying decision.
I think people do that.
I think people do, yeah. And my number 1 guy is like somebody people look for
sci-fi.
For sci-fi.
That's big.
I mean, he's done a lot of the biggest sci-fi audiobooks.
Yeah.
And so there's also a bit of a brand value there, being able to say like, hey,
100%.
This guy's doing the audio. It adds this seriousness or this gravitas to it.
I've seen that with some of the cover designers I reached out to who were the more expensive ones. And I'm not working with them, but it's not because of me not wanting to. It's because their timelines are booked out for 10 months.
Yeah.
Which is awesome for them. I'm also like, raise your prices. Hopefully they're not listening to this. But it's the same kind of thing where they have these platforms, mainly Instagram, and they'll post the work that they're doing. It's tons of engagement. That's really valuable.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, same thing with audiobook, I think. It seems that way.
Yeah.
So for me, it's something that I will invest in, but I also know that I want to get the book itself, ebook, paperback specifically, nailed.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be spread too thin trying to get all of these things right first.
Totally.
So I will do audiobook at some point. I wouldn't be shocked if it comes a little bit after the initial launch.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing too. I'm fine with it. And just to put numbers to it, the number 1 all in with all of the audiobook production behind it and his narrator cost is about $14,000.
Yeah.
It's a big investment.
That's double what I'm paying developmental editor who's done some of the biggest books of the last decade.
Totally. And the number 2 all in is about $10,000.
Yeah.
So it's a $4,000 difference.
Yeah.
Right? So it's significant. And if it means selling an extra, 1,000 audiobooks, it pays for itself really quickly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a tough call. But
it's hard to look at these as investments, not costs.
Yes. Especially when you don't know if the book is going to sell well.
Totally.
It's like 99.9% of books never sell 100 copies or whatever.
I feel like for book 2, it'll be easier to view as an investment because you'll know, okay, this is what book 1 has done so far. Would that pay off?
Right.
This.
But even then, it's like you were telling me the Christopher Ruocchio story, right? Where he had to get to book 5 before things started really taking off for him.
So I've been when that is mentioning, there's this author, Christopher Ruocchio, who I've started really enjoying his books. Empire
first
of
book
Silence.
club book.
Empire
book club book.
Empire of Silence is the first one. I'm almost done with it. I think it's quite good. The general people, and he said this, it's the worst one of the series. And I'm like, if this is the worst one, I'm excited to read the rest of the series.
Yeah.
And it's very Dune-ish vibes, which I enjoy. It's a little bit of a slower burn. I also enjoy that. Very different than a lot of the modern fantasy and sci-fi. That's very, and I enjoyed the slower burn to it. But he said that his first, it was like 3, 4, or 5 novels, like did well, but not anywhere near what they're doing now. And then this guy on YouTube, Mike's Book Reviews, who has a really good channel. I like his reviews quite a bit. Did a review on it, and it sold out everywhere, like 4 or 5 years after the first book came out.
Yeah.
I think that's a very rare story for novels, but I wouldn't be shocked if it becomes more common given the rise of places like YouTube or Bookstagram.
It's not that rare. Like, I mean, obviously it's rare for something to succeed, but I don't feel like it's rare for something to not succeed at first and for it to take, because it's sort of like just compounding growth, right?
True.
If you like, you can think of a book as having an R naught, right? Like an infection rate.
Yep.
and
K factor.
Yeah, K factor or whatever. And if the K factor is 1.2, right, where each one reader leads to 1.2 more readers, then it takes a long time for that to turn into 5x, 10x, 100x.
And then maybe you find a Mike who one reader turns into 50,000.
Exactly. Yeah.
Boom.
So somebody told me that was actually Tim Ferriss with the what is it? Name of the Wind. Is that true?
I have no idea. I need to look into this.
Yeah. I heard that Name of the Wind, like Tim Ferriss put that
on the map,
much more on the map. It was like quieter before, and then it kind of took off from him.
I'm gonna look that up. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't think of him as having that fiction audience, but his audience is so big that it doesn't matter.
Totally. No, that's there's something on that with the Ruocchio story I was just thinking of. I lost it now.
If you're looking for a good author interview guy, I'd recommend finding some Christopher Ruocchio interviews. He's a good yapper.
I gotta listen.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else on my marketing stuff. I think the main thing is just pushing the new author newsletter pretty hard and mentioning it in every one of my newsletters. I mention it in my welcome email now. So everybody who signs up to World Builders, at the bottom, it's like, P.S. if you like fiction, I'm launching this book. You can join the waitlist here, kind of thing.
Smart. I should do that.
And that's starting to show dividends.
Okay, cool.
We're almost at triple digits for waitlist signups.
That's something.
So, my goal is hopefully get a couple thousand folks on there before the launch.
Yeah.
And just go from there. But I think that's the kind of main lever that I'm going to pull. And I'm considering also Instagram, because I'm seeing the value more and more of an audience of readers as well as writers. And I think Instagram, YouTube could be a great place to start building that out.
Yeah, I think that's right. I feel like I say this every week. I need to get more consistent there. It feels like it's just sprints. I'll have a week where I'm really good, and then a week or two where I'm off. And I'm off because I'm focused on writing.
Which is a good thing.
It's a good reason to not be doing it, but it does pay dividends over time, I think.
Yeah. And then Twitter then becomes more of but like almost personal journal in a way, rather than trying to build like an audience for that kind of thing. And I can just share what I'm doing on these other platforms and places. And I think that is more interesting and fits Twitter better.
Totally.
If that makes sense.
I think that's right.
Yeah. So
we were talking a little bit before we started about differences in working on subsequent books from, you've got your first one close to done. I've got Husk 1 done. We're both working on our novellas now. What have you noticed is different now working on like another book after mostly getting through the first one?
Well, first is if it's in a series, and my novella is in the same world, same series, and I have that world so much better established in my head than I did when I started book 1, that the words are flowing easier just because I'm not also making up stuff on the fly.
Totally.
It's more like,
it's almost the opposite problem now. You and I were talking about this when we were working this morning, that now I'm like, man, I got to go iron out this timeline because I'm referencing dates and events, and I got to be really sure those are correct.
I mean, there's definitely going to be a reader that sends me an email or DM, hey, I think you screwed this up. And I'll be, yep, you're right. I did.
Retcon, go back and edit it, republish it. It's like if you got the edition with the error, it's a collector's item now.
Exactly.
No, I've noticed the exact same thing. I think I said that for the novella. It flew really quickly. It felt like it came out really easily. And with Husk 2, it's been the same.
That's awesome.
I'm at like 35,000 words on that now.
On Husk 2?
On Husk 2. It's great. And it, like I was saying last week, there's this going from underwriting to overwriting or moderate writing now, where it doesn't feel like it's as hard to flush things out. That part's getting a lot easier. But we're talking a little bit about editing too. And I feel like that's gotten like easier or clearer now than it was working on. I mean, the first version of Husk, which I threw in the trash, the second version of Husk, now in the novella.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like my fourth time editing a book, my third time editing a novel. It feels like that process is so much more dialed in now. And that's a really good feeling.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm scrambling in the dark as much.
Yeah. And when you say dialed in more, what do you mean?
Well, one thing that I realized with Husk when I was editing it was I got into this period where I was kind of just jumping around between the scenes, like tweaking things and fixing things and changing things.
Totally.
And it felt like the work just kept growing. Like
Yep.
there's just more stuff to do, more to do, more to do. And it didn't feel like I was making progress, but I hadn't sat down and read the book all the way through.
You've been doing that where you'll take a couple days, download it to Kindle, read.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly. So what I'm trying to be stricter about now is never getting like stuck in that, you know, sort of like unclear what to do, adding new tasks space that I was. And so what I did for the novella is I finished it end of March. I let it sit for 2 weeks while I worked on Husk 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then I picked it back up, and I didn't dive straight into editing. I put it on my Kindle and I read it, and then I kept separate notes on my phone.
Nice.
Of everything that I felt like I needed to change as I was going.
Yep.
And then so I had my preliminary list of edits, and then I took the whole thing and I fed it into Sonnet 3.7 and 01 Pro and asked those for feedback.
The whole thing as in the book?
The whole novella.
Nice.
Yeah. And that was actually extremely helpful too, because it pointed out things that were already on my list that I totally agreed with, and it pointed out some things I hadn't thought of, which was great. So I was able to kind of like read through those sets of feedback, and I ran each one probably like 5 or 10 times. And
just to see the consistency across them, what was mentioned the most.
Consistency,
kind of
different ideas would pop out, you know, just it's basically like getting 20 beta readers.
For sure.
Right. And then there were things in those that I agreed with. I was like, oh yeah, that would actually be good to flush out or change or adopt. And so added those to my list. And now I just have like a very clear set of priorities.
And how do you prioritize that list?
Basically starting with high level structural things. So most important being like character arcs, character motivations, you know, the storyline, right? Like making sure all of that makes sense before getting into paragraph and scene level changes. So, I mean, the first thing I did was I broke up a lot of the scenes and reorganized things to make a little bit nicer of a flow.
Like reorganized literally the story.
Literally the story, yeah. Because the way the story is told is it's basically the day that they solve the transfer problem. And it's a new character interviewing Felix.
Okay. I didn't know that. New
character interviewing Felix on the day that he solves this.
Okay.
And so he's like going to Felix's house, interviewing him about everything that led to this moment, and then the moment. And so it's a bunch of little stories kind of like being told from Felix's perspective as part of this interview.
Yeah.
But there were parts where it just like went too long.
Yeah.
You know, maybe like too much exposition, too deep in the technical mechanics, too deep in the philosophy. And so, you know, breaking some of those out with less heavy sections, like adding more interaction. So it's not just a 20,000 word monologue, things like that.
It's like the blended storytelling idea, but applied on a structural level, not just a specific scene.
Yes. Yeah. So did that first and felt like, okay, now I've got a better flow. And with the last structural piece being like the ending, where the ending is good. And there was an ending I was thinking originally. There was the ending that popped out that surprised me that I liked better, but there's still something like not quite right with it. But I'm going to get to that last because I want to fix the beginning and middle because I think that will sort of like reveal what the right ending is. And then I'll do that part last. And so I think I should hopefully be done with it by the end of April. It's kind of like the timeline that I'm thinking right now. Because, and last week we were talking about like target word counts to get under that 2 hour.
Are you thinking about it?
I'm thinking about it. I don't think it's going to happen.
It's a lot. Because you're at 30.
I was at 36,000.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And it's like I've deleted 2,000 or 3,000 words, but I've also added about the same number.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it'd be pretty hard, I think, for me to really cut out a quarter of the book.
Yeah,
I think
the
I'd lose
story
too
might
much.
struggle.
Yeah.
But you get under the...
And I like all the parts that I have right now, so I don't really want... It already feels pretty concise.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm probably not going to get it down that short, but it'll still be like 125 pages.
Yeah,
it's a good
that's
length.
great.
Yeah. But that has felt really good, feeling like, okay, the editing has a much clearer like process now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's also this element of like the stakes get lower the more books you finish.
What do you mean?
Well, I think when you're working on your first book, it's this huge thing in your head.
Yep. I
it's
can confirm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh my God, right? Like this is terrifying.
Yeah.
And then you kind of get it out there and you realize, oh, okay, like
it's out there.
It's out there. And it's important. You should care about it and everything, but it's also just a book.
Mm-hmm.
It's a book, right? And then you write another book, and then the stakes feel a little bit lower after that too. And that doesn't mean that you don't care that it's not good. It just feels more okay to get closer to the finish line. I don't feel like I need to invent a lot of like heaviness around the work for myself. So I think that's helping too. Because also like with Husk, I spent all that time in that weird editing space. And then I just deleted all of my to-dos. I downloaded the book on my Kindle. I read it over a few days. And I was basically like, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
It was much worse in my head than it was in reality.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that actually needed to be changed were significantly fewer than what I had thought.
Yep.
And so trying to just keep that in mind with this and not let myself get stuck in editing purgatory.
Over-analysis mode.
Yeah. I feel like you can lose a lot of time in editing purgatory.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
For sure. One thing that I completely agree with everything you just said in terms of structurally editing first and that becoming a more natural thing. Same experience.
Yeah.
I also saw with the upfront outlining work a similar thing. I still start with the last scene and getting that right in my head. There's room for it to grow or change, of course, but I love having that like magnet that pulls the story forward and me knowing where that is. But then the looking at things as, okay, if I'm doing 23 to 27,000 words, that means I need 7 to 10 scenes.
Yeah.
What are those big scenes? Who's there? Why do they happen? Why do they happen in that order? And then just write those out. And then what I found was I actually replaced, I think it was 3 of the 8 that I had. And I was like, that doesn't really actually fit or make sense. And I wouldn't have, the way I had outlined previously, which was barely any, wouldn't have known that, would have written those scenes. So, and one of the things I struggled with the first book was there was this long scene that you know about that was like 7,000 words. And I spent a lot of time on it. And then I took it out of the entire book, Yep. So hopefully avoiding that up front by outlining. Yeah. Outlining more intentionally and more in depth.
And we were talking about this a bit before too, because you've got an article about like 7 things you learned writing your first book that you would like do differently next time.
Yeah.
And one of the things you mentioned was the outlining. And I saved this thought for when we were recording, which is I feel like part of it too is that you have to go through that process to then appreciate the outlining and to even learn how to do it in the first place. Because I had the exact same takeaway from going into, the novella and Husk 2. Like I'm doing a lot more outlining with those and it's really helpful. And I don't think I could have done it for Husk 1. Because I didn't know how yet.
Yeah.
Or I didn't really know how to think on that level. It really is a muscle that you kind of have to like train and flex.
I agree.
Before it really clicks.
I was also proud about it. I was like, oh, I'm not an outliner.
Yeah,
I'm not a
yeah.
pantser. I figure it out as I go. I know the ending, and then everything else, we'll just figure it out. Which worked, but I think it takes a lot more time actually than outlining, which is a bit backwards from what I expected, a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think the outlining actually saves me a fair bit of time.
Yeah. Well, Sanderson had a good quip in his creative writing lectures where he said that something like everybody's actually an outliner, but the pantsers write their outline as a first draft. Yeah.
I've seen that.
And then they
That's
write
good.
the like actual first draft after that. And he's like, but if you can just do an outline as your like pantser first draft, you can actually save yourself a decent amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And that I feel like resonates pretty strongly. I definitely agree because, it doesn't have to be a crazy outline. It can just be,
Right.
they meet in a bar, like this fight happens, and then, you get there and you flesh it out and you find the details and the outline changes, but something really helps.
Yes.
And it helps you foresee problems too.
Yeah. And I don't think people are one or the other. It's more of a sliding scale. And whereas I viewed it as one or the other, and now I'm like, okay, actually, maybe I'm kind of smack dab in the middle here.
Yeah. I haven't started Empire of Silence, so I got to get on that because we're going to do that in 3 weeks.
It's quite good. You'll enjoy it.
I think we'll get through it quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I can't put down the Dungeon Crawler Carl books.
Or are you on book like 8 now?
I'm on book 5 now.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that more and more. It's all over the place.
And there's 7 of them, so I think I'll probably be done in another week or 2.
You're really into them.
How
long are they?
They're like 600 pages each.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
that's not, I thought you were going to say 200.
No, but they move.
Yeah.
It's just like nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've got a couple flights. I also, I reorganized my phone and now I have the Kindle widget on my homepage. I took everything that has a feed off my homepage and I put the Kindle widget on my lock screen.
Nice.
And so half the time when I pick up my phone now, because I like want something to do, I just go into Kindle instead of going into Substack Notes or Instagram or any of these other places.
I think I'll copy you on that one.
It's actually been a surprisingly effective change. So that's been really good and I think it's hard to do with some books. Like I wouldn't want to read East of Eden while going to the bathroom and be only dropping in for 2 minutes at a time. Yeah. But if it's a lighter, fun, fast-paced book, it works really well. So been enjoying that as a like reading hack.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Shall we wrap it up?
I think we should wrap it up. So next week we'll talk about, what do we talk about next week?
I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah. But we'll be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Share this with a friend. You can pre-order your copy of Husk
on Amazon as well.
On Amazon, apparently. Yeah, but it's still better to get it through me. Huskbook.com, worldbuilders.ai for Nathan's storytelling newsletter.
I need to change. I bought my own domain.
Oh,
I was thankful
nathanbaugh.com.
that was available.
Great.
Yeah. So I will be moving it.
Cool. All right. Until then.
Yeah.
And that. What's the domain for your book newsletter?
It's ugly.
Is it just a Beehive domain?
Yeah. It's like the pendulumswings.beehive.com.
Okay. Yeah. Well, they can type
Nobody's
that in
finding it on Doodle right now.
Yeah. But yeah, so sign up for those and we'll see you next time.